Hello guys, in this video I want to share with you my tips of passing 5 European language exams at the B2 level. Let's go! So firstly, I think it's no secret that no pain equals no gain. And to master any European languages, you must go through the hard work of grammar. But it's part of life. What can you do, right? I know, grammar is not fun, grammar is boring, yeah, I agree. Grammar is really boring, but what can you do? In order to achieve a high level in any language, I believe grammar is essential. Without grammar, you can't actually talk. And so, what can you do? A tip of learning grammar is to find books that are in your target language without English. Do you know why? Because if your grammar book has English, then you tend to translate in your brain from English to a target language or vice versa. So you are not actually thinking in your target language if your grammar book is in English and the other language. So I would strongly recommend you to get grammar books when you are around, A2, B1 level, only in your target language, which forces you to think in the target language. And also, learn new words. That's very helpful, I think. The second tip to achieve a good level in your target language is to learn the phonology. I know phonology sounds like a very linguistic, very show-off term, but actually it's not. It's just that you need to know the pronunciation rules of the language. For example, French has, a notorious pronunciation rules, right? Like, for example, j'ai, tu es, il est, like the spelling doesn't even, reflect how the word is pronounced. And to overcome this problem, I would recommend you to study the phonology of the language. There are books specifically about phonology. So after you learn about, French phonology, you'll find it a lot easier not only to pronounce French words, but also to memorize new words, because now you know how French words are spelled and pronounced. When you hear the word, you can get an idea how it's spelled rather than, it will no longer sound like a bubble in your head. And I think it's very useful to to learn the phonology first before actually digging further in the language. Another tip I have for language learners is to try as many language learning apps as possible. Don't just try one or two, the big ones. Try as many as possible. Try the small ones, try the middle ones, and just find what you like, because everyone has a different cup of tea, like what your friend likes doesn't mean it's what you like. And you might be more interested into learning the grammar. You might be more interested into learning the background culture about new words, etc., etc. So everyone has a different need when they're learning a language, and that's why I would recommend you to try as many language learning apps as you like. For me personally, as you may know, I'm a grammar-focused guy, so I really like Buzu and Babbel because their courses are made on top of grammar. Like, they are not that vocabulary focused; they focus more on your grammar rather than vocabulary. And I really like it. Maybe you won't like it, but so what? It's what I like, and I'm not paid, I'm not sponsored, so I wouldn't say they are perfect, but just try it out. Maybe you like them too. Another tip about learning a language is to practice with native speakers as soon as possible, especially when you are at that A2, B1 level. It's very, very important to get used to speaking in that language and to listening to the language. So that's why you need to talk to native speakers. I know sometimes it can be quite, daunting. You might not be confident with your own language levels, but it's okay. Like, native speakers, normally they're very open, they're very nice to you, especially when they know you are learning their language. And yeah, of course, there are some, exceptional cases where an asshole, oh, can I say that one? Some jerks just, laugh at you, but hey, like, it's life, no matter what you do, there will be someone that laugh at you, but it's okay. It's life. We go on, we learn the language, and we don't give a damn about what they say, right? And I think talking to native speakers is very important because they can correct your mistakes immediately and they can give you immediate feedback, even though they might not, tell you why this grammatical rule is that and why, this is wrong, why that's right, because they might have forgotten about it or they just have never learned that in their lives because they learn their language, their mother tongue, naturally, rather than us, oh la la, miserable being learning their language with grammar. So yeah, but still, when you talk to native speakers, you're not only training your listening skills, you're also training your speaking skills, and you'll improve a lot. And I mean a lot when you actually talk to native speakers, not in a classroom setting. And I think talking to a native speaker in a casual manner is completely different to talking to your teacher in a classroom setting. because in the classroom setting, you need to learn specific words, you need to go according to the syllabus, which I completely hate. I'm actually traumatized with, learning a language in the classroom. That's why I always self-learn languages. I accept French, which was my first foreign language, so I started in the classroom. But afterwards, for all my future languages, I self-studied. Yes, I'm not showing off, but I'm just telling you, like, for me, it's better when I self-study a language because I have zero interest in, how to order vegetables, how to order fruits. I hate them. So that's why I'm so bad in the classroom, because you have to know them at the beginner level in the classroom. But anyway, let's move on. I know talking to a native speaker can really be quite daunting. If you are not, quite confident enough to talk to them face to face, maybe you can also try some language exchange apps. And this is also very helpful when you are not living in the country where your target language is spoken. For example, for me, I'm in Hong Kong, and when I want to practice, Turkish and Russian, it's quite difficult for me to find someone to practice with. And the benefit of a language exchange app is that you can just talk in the target language and your language partner will talk in your language. So you're not actually, taking advantage of someone because you're helping one another out. And I find this a great way to, to improve my language skills. And moreover, you might become friends. For example, my own personal experience when I was learning Turkish, I met a lot of language partners, and some of them even became my friends. I went to visit them. Türkiye'yi çok özledim. Türkiye'yi çok seviyorum. Or if you're really not confident about your language skills, I would recommend you the best way to practice a language by yourself. That's no, not yourself, but find your teddy bear, talk to him in your language, and have an imaginary conversation in your head. Why this is helpful? Because when you are having an imaginary conversation, you are forcing yourself to think. And when you talk to yourself, you will also realize the grammatical mistakes that you made and the words that you don't know. And I think it's a great way to practice a language. For example, I can practice Italian with my bear, like, ciao, come stai? Molto bene, grazie. Hai mangiato un pizza oggi? No, oggi non ho mangiato un pizza, ho mangiato soltanto una pasta. Che bello, è pasta con ketchup. Okay. Anyway, you see the point. When you are talking to your teddy bear, you don't have to pay so much attention at the topic. You can talk about whatever you like. And I think it's really helpful because a lot of times, especially in a classroom setting, when we're learning a language, we cannot talk about what we like. We need to talk about God knows what, like how to order a baguette at a bakery, even though you hate baguette. Last but not least is to enjoy the language and never give up. Remember, learning a language is a long, 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 and I mean long procedure. You can't be fluent in 90 days or in 2 months, 3 months. I know there are a lot of people, they try to tell you, oh, I become fluent in a language in 6 months, in 1 year. But are they really fluent? And yeah, maybe there are some geniuses out there, but do you really need to compare yourself to them? I believe, everyone has their own abilities, has their own story to write. You don't have to follow them. I mean, you can take their advice. Sure. For example, my favorite polyglots on YouTube are Iclal and also Elis da Vega. I think they are really, really good. They are real polyglots, like Iclal especially. I think she's the queen of languages. She, for God's sake, she got Russian C1, French C2, Italian C2, Spanish C2, God knows what. Oh my god, she's just my girl. Iclal, if you're watching this video, can we collab? Or even not, can I buy you a coffee? You inspired me so much. And if you watch Iclal and Eris, you can feel their passion, their love for the language. They don't learn it because they need to. They just learn it for fun, right? And I think this is very important. And I always remind myself why I'm learning a language. Because at the current moment, I'm struggling a bit with Polish, with Russian, with Turkish. They are not the simplest languages to learn, but I remind myself because I like Russian literature, because I love Polish pierogi, because I like kebabs and the Ottoman Empire and Atatürk, and I'm being a geek now. You need to remind yourself constantly what you like about the language and why you started in the first place. And with love and with passion, with time, you can overcome it, and you can also do 5 B2 language certificates like me. Sorry for the little show off, but see you next time. Bye bye. Effortlessly. My English.